on Newstalk.
Dublin Airport has opened talks with airlines as the airport is set to reach its 32 million passenger cap. 25 million people have already passed through the terminal in 2023. So could there be trouble ahead if that 32 million cap is reached and breached? To talk about all of this, we're joined by Eoghan Corry, Editor-in-Chief of Air and Travel magazine. Good morning, Eoghan.
Good morning, Pat.
Now, first of all, where does this cap come from?
Oh, it's a long time ago. It goes way back to that time we were talking about the second terminal. And it really was put in, and it's a little bit different from the other conditions we've been talking about in this programme and others, in that it came in a Board Planola list of conditions, not the Fingal County Council. It said that when we reach 32 million, you need to apply for more infrastructure. At different times, different people have interpreted that as a third terminal, and there's quite a lot of some well-publicised and some less well-publicised discussion about that during the summer. But the figure of 32 million is important. We almost hit it pre-pandemic 2019. It went away for a couple of years, and now it's back. And Dublin Airport are really working out how are we going to cope if we have to deal with a cap of 32 million with all the, first of all, the route frequencies increasing and the extra flights that we expect to happen as the economy grows.
On Board Planola, know nothing about air traffic control. That's not their business. They deal with planning on the ground, and also it seems they'll be dealing with planning at sea for windmills and all the rest of it. They'll have to assemble the expertise to do that, but they don't have an air traffic control mandate one way or the other. So presumably the 32 million cap is to do with traffic movements around the airport, which would be part, I suppose, of their general planning brief, an orderly development of that area of Dublin. So here's the question. How many people never leave the airport who just come in as transit passengers and therefore don't impact on the infrastructure around the airport?
There are about 1 million of those, just over 1 million of those, and they're counted twice. The way international aviation works is you count somebody landing and then somebody departing. Some of them don't even get off the aircraft. At one case, we had transit flights refueling where the people didn't have visas to get off. But that even the counting of that, and Dublin Airport, anticipating, if we go over a little bit over the 32, that figure will be important. Went to Fingal County Council. Fingal County Council kicked it back to Board Planola, who imposed the condition. And the Board Planola is working really slowly. It's very poorly resourced. You've had this on your programme again and again and again about the speed of planning decisions. So Dublin Airport, a little bit of a quandary because they have to deliver all of this for their passengers and for their airlines.
Yeah. Now, if on Board Planola says once you hit 32 million, you got to look for more infrastructure, that would suggest that they can, until that infrastructure is actually built, they can, keep on trucking. As long as they stick in a planning application for more infrastructure, whether that's T3 or whether it's an extension of T1 or T2, you'd imagine that pending the permission coming through, that they could just carry on.
Absolutely, and that's what's happening. The infrastructure is going to go in probably next month. The talks with the airlines, which appeared in the newspapers today, are part of that process. It doesn't involve a Terminal 3. The only people looking for a third terminal are some of the private developers. It'll involve extending the Ryanair end. So you could talk about North Aprons and South Aprons, but really in Aer Lingus, it's Ryanair is in the north, Aer Lingus in the south. So it involves extending that pier, putting in a lot more air bridges, and then an extension on the Aer Lingus side as well, and an extension of US pre-clearance. Planning permission has been turned down for that. A lot of stuff about security machines that you don't have to take out of your laptops out of your bag. 5 of those already in place. All of Terminal 2 will be running on that. A famous underpass that Michael O'Leary is particularly critical of, and then a lot of the public transport infrastructure, roads to and from, including the famous parking charge, which they have permission for but haven't implemented yet. So all of that's going in as a bundle into the planning process, and the talks with the airlines that are underway at the moment are part of that process because they have to start looking at all eventualities. Nothing that happens with planning at Dublin Airport goes very smoothly nowadays.
Okay, so people who are thinking, am I in danger of not being able to come home for Christmas to see the mammy or the daddy? Is that likely to be a frustration for them if the 32 million cap was passed sometime after midterm and into December?
Highly unlikely unless we start dealing with enforcement orders like we did during the summer. I do think the legal process will respond to that. So I don't think we'll have a crisis looming up in 8, 9, 10 weeks. But certainly when we're planning for a summer of 2024, which could be quite busy, that's when they really need to have the T's crossed and the I's dotted.
Two final things, Owen. I'm not sure you use the airport all the time. I had occasion to use it over the weekend.
On my way there at the moment,
okay,
yes.
Well, where the taxis pick up people when they order on the apps, I think it's called Area 18.
Yes.
It's incredible mess. Absolute incredible mess. Now, I don't know whether it's Kenny Jacobs doing or whether it preceded him, but it's just not fit for purpose.
Absolutely, and the whole taxi scene has been changed with Uber and all of those things. Different airports around the world responding in different ways. A lot of it could be solved. One of the things Kenny Jacobs is very enthusiastic about is the pre-booking of taxis. That they would be a separate area, particularly families, because 4 or 5 people landing, trying to find the right vehicle for them with mobility issues and all of that is part of the whole slowdown process. It's not going to be solved very easily because you're also dealing with 3 different taxi driver bodies there. And obviously the planning process is a little bit slower than Dublin Airport would like. A lot of things, there are some things that can be done in the short term, like allowing pre-booking that would alleviate the problem.
Yeah, and the final thing is the food offering in T2. It's all done by machine. Well, a lot of it now, with the exception of Burger King. If you want something different from Camille or any of these things, you have to go to a machine and order it. You don't see any food. It's all done behind closed doors. It's not right.
You're very retro, Pat. You want to actually meet another human being. You know what? The first AI shop.
No, I want to see the grub before I buy it. I don't want to just take it on, comes through in a cardboard box or something. I'm not
the first
on for that.
AI shop has opened at Dublin Airport as well this week. But the thing is that the food offering, they've one of the problems was the airport came under pressure in different places at different times. Terminal 2's transatlantic rush is very different from Ryanair's rush. So one of the things they've done is introduced a couple of mobile units that can move around the airport. But certainly they're working on the food offering. Franchisees had a lot of problem during the pandemic. A lot of those franchises have come up for renewal, and there's certainly new terms and conditions being imposed.
All right, Eoghan, thank you very much for joining us. Eoghan Corry, who's editor of Air and Travel magazine.